Franz Friedrich Anton Mesmer /MZMR/ German MSN, May 23, 1734 March 5, 1815 was a German doctor with an interest in astronomy. He theorized the existence of a natural energy transference occurring between all animated and inanimate objects. This he called animal magnetism, sometimes later referred to as mesmerism. In modern times, New Age spiritualists have revived a similar idea. Citation needed. Mesmer's theory attracted a wide following between about 1780 and 1850, and continued to have some influence until the end of the 19th century. In 1843, the Scottish doctor James Braid proposed the term hypnosis for a technique derived from animal magnetism. Today, the word mesmerism generally functions as a synonym of hypnosis. Early life. Mesmer was born in the village of Osnabrück, on the shore of Lake Constance in Swabia, Germany, a son of Master Forester Anton Mesmer 1701 after 1747 and his wife, Maria/Ursula N. Michel, 17011770. After studying at the Jesuit universities of Dillingen and Ingolstadt, he took up the study of medicine at the University of Vienna in 1759. In 1766 he published a doctoral dissertation with the Latin titled A Planetarum Influxu in Corpus Humanum on the influence of the planets on the human body, which discussed the influence of the moon and the planets on the human body and on disease. This was not medical astrology. Building largely on Isaac Newton's theory of the tides, Mesmer expounded on certain tides in the human body that might be accounted for by the movements of the sun and moon. Evidence assembled by Frank A. Patty suggests that Mesmer plagiarized a part of his dissertation from a work by Richard Mead, an eminent English physician and Newton's friend. However, in Mesmer's day, doctoral theses were not expected to be original. In January 1768, Mesmer married Anna Maria von Posch, a wealthy widow, and established himself as a doctor in Vienna. In the summers he lived on a splendid estate and became a patron of the arts. In 1768, when court intrigue prevented the performance of La Finta Semplice K51, for which the 12-year-old Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart had composed 500 pages of music, Mesmer is said to have arranged a performance in his garden of Mozart's Bastien und Bastien K50, a one-act opera, though Mozart's biographer Niesen found no proof that this performance actually took place. Mozart later immortalized his former patron by including a comedic reference to Mesmer in his opera Cos fan tutte. Animal magnetism. In 1774, Mesmer produced an artificial tide in a patient, Franziska Sterlin, who suffered from hysteria, by having her swallow a preparation containing iron and then attaching magnets to various parts of her body. She reported feeling streams of a mysterious fluid running through her body and was relieved of her symptoms for several hours. Mesmer did not believe that the magnets had achieved the cure on their own. He felt that he had contributed animal magnetism, which had accumulated in his work, to her. He soon stopped using magnets as a part of his treatment. In the same year, Mesmer collaborated with Maximilian Hell. In 1775, Mesmer was invited to give his opinion before the Munich Academy of Sciences on the exorcisms carried out by Johann Joseph Gassner Gainer, a priest and healer who grew up in Vorarlberg, Austria. Mesmer said that while Gassner was sincere in his beliefs, his cures resulted because he possessed a high degree of animal magnetism. This confrontation between Mesmer's secular ideas and Gassner's religious beliefs marked the end of Gassner's career as well as, according to Henry Ellenberger, the emergence of dynamic psychiatry. The scandal that followed Mesmer's only partial success in curing the blindness of an 18-year-old musician, Maria Theresa Paradis, led him to leave Vienna in 1777. In February 1778, Mesmer moved to Paris, rented an apartment in a part of the city preferred by the wealthy and powerful, and established a medical practice. Paris soon divided into those who thought he was a charlatan who had been forced to flee from Vienna and those who thought he had made a great discovery. In his first years in Paris, Mesmer tried and failed to get either the Royal Academy of Sciences or the Royal Society of Medicine to provide official approval for his doctrines. He found only one physician of high professional and social standing, Charles d'Eslin, to become a disciple. In 1779, with d'Eslin's encouragement, Mesmer wrote an 88-page book, Memoires sur la découverte du magnétisme animal, to which he appended his famous 27 propositions. These propositions outlined his theory at that time. Some contemporary scholars equate Mesmer's animal magnetism with the qi of traditional Chinese medicine and mesmerism with medical qigong practices. According to d'Eslin, Mesmer understood health as the free flow of the process of life through thousands of channels in our bodies. Illness was caused by obstacles to this flow. Overcoming these obstacles and restoring flow produced crises, which restored health. When nature failed to do this spontaneously, contact with a conductor of animal magnetism was a necessary and sufficient remedy. Mesmer aimed to aid or provoke the efforts of nature. To cure an insane person, for example, involved causing a fit of madness. The advantage of magnetism involved accelerating such crises without danger. Procedure. Mesmer treated patients both individually and in groups. With individuals, he would sit in front of his patient with his knees touching the patient's knees, pressing the patient's thumbs in his hands, looking fixedly into the patient's eyes. Mesmer made passes, moving his hands from patients' shoulders down along their arms. He then pressed his fingers on the patient's hypochondrium region, the area below the diaphragm, sometimes holding his hands there for hours. Many patients felt peculiar sensations or had convulsions that were regarded as crises and supposed to bring about the cure. Mesmer would often conclude his treatments by playing some music on a glass harmonica. By 1780, Mesmer had more patients than he could treat individually, and he established a collective treatment known as the Bacchae. An English doctor who observed Mesmer described the treatment as follows. In the middle of the room is placed a vessel of about 1.5 feet high, which is called here a Bacchae. It is so large that 20 people can easily sit round it. Near the edge of the lid which covers it, there are holes pierced corresponding to the number of persons who are to surround it. Into these holes are introduced iron rods, bent at right angles outwards, and of different heights, so as to answer to the part of the body to which they are to be applied. Besides these rods, there is a rope which communicates between the Bacchae and one of the patients, and from him is carried to another, and so on the whole round. The most sensible effects are produced on the approach of Mesmer, who is said to convey the fluid by certain motions of his hands or eyes, without touching the person. I have talked with several who have witnessed these effects, who have convulsions occasioned and removed by a movement of the hand. Investigation. In 1784, without Mesmer requesting it, King Louis XVI appointed 4 members of the Faculty of Medicine as commissioners to investigate animal magnetism as practiced by D'Eslin. At the request of these commissioners, the king appointed 5 additional commissioners from the Royal Academy of Sciences. These included the chemist Antoine Lavoisier, the Dr. Joseph Ignace Guillotin, the astronomer Jean-Sylvain Bailly, and the American ambassador Benjamin Franklin. The commission conducted a series of experiments aimed not at determining whether Mesmer's treatment worked, but whether he had discovered a new physical fluid. The commission concluded that there was no evidence for such a fluid. Whatever benefit the treatment produced was attributed to imagination. But one of the commissioners, the botanist Antoine Laurent de Jussieu, took exception to the official reports. He wrote a dissenting opinion that declared Mesmer's theory credible and worthy of further investigation. The commission did not examine Mesmer, but investigated the practice of D'Eslin. In August 1784, Mesmer visited a mesmeric society in Lyon. In 1785, Mesmer left Paris. In 1790, he was in Vienna again to settle the estate of his deceased wife Maria Anna. When he sold his house in Vienna in 1801, he was in Paris. Mesmer was driven into exile soon after the investigations on animal magnetism, although his influential student, Armand Marie Jacques de Chassenet, Marquis de Pusker (1751–1825), continued to have many followers until his death. Mesmer continued to practice in Frauenfeld, Switzerland, for a number of years and died in 1815 in Meersburg, Germany. Adfaria, an Indo-Portuguese monk in Paris and a contemporary of Mesmer, claimed that nothing comes from the magnetizer, everything comes from the subject and takes place in his imagination, i.e. auto-suggestion generated from within the mind. Works. De Planetarum Influxu and Corpus Humanum ber den Einfluss der Gestern auf den menschlichen Körper, The Influence of the Planets on the Human Body / Original Language Latin 1766. Memoire sur la découverte du magnétisme animal, Diet, Genfuendi Paris 1779 Digitalisat. Senskraben in einen Ausratigen Arzt ber die Magnetische Circulatory Letter to an External Physician about the Magnetic Ear / Original Language German 1775. Thori du monde et de trace organismes suivant les principes de M. Paris, 1784 Digitalisat. Memoire de F. A. Mesmer, sur ses découvertes, 1798–1799 Digitalisat. Mesmerisme oder System der Wechselwirkungen. Theorie und die Anwendung des theoretischen Magnetismus, Mesmerism or the system of interrelations. Theory and Applications of Animal Magnetism / Original Language German 1814. Edited by Karl Christian Wolfhart Mesmerismus. Oder System der Wechselwirkungen, Theorie und die Anwendung der theoretischen Magnetismus als die allgemeine Heilkunde zur Erhaltung der Menschen. MIT den Bildungen of Verfassers und die 6 Kupferdefelten. Nikolai, Berlin 1814 Digitalisat.